Case 1. Agent Charles McGonigal. In the bustling streets of New York City, amidst the towering skyscrapers and the ceaseless hum of urban life, Charles McGonigal appeared as just another dedicated public servant. Born on June 23, 1968, McGonigal joined the FBI in 1996, steadily rising through the ranks. By 2016, he was appointed as the special agent in charge of the FBI's Counterintelligence Division in New York, overseeing critical national security matters. Known for his expertise in Russian intelligence activities, McGonigal was entrusted with some of the Bureau's most sensitive operations. Yet, beneath the surface of this esteemed career, a darker narrative was unfolding, one that would eventually unravel the very fabric of his professional integrity. In 2021, after retiring from the FBI in 2018, McGonigal's ambition led him down a perilous path. He conspired with Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska, a billionaire with close ties to President Vladimir Putin, to violate U.S. sanctions. McGonigal agreed to investigate a rival oligarch for Deripaska and to assist in efforts to remove him from the U.S. sanctions list. In return, he received over $17,000 and negotiated a potential fee ranging from $650,000 to $3 million. Simultaneously, McGonigal concealed a $225,000 payment from a former Albanian intelligence official. This individual, who had business interests in Europe, met with McGonigal during overseas travels, including a meeting with the Prime Minister of Albania. McGonigal failed to disclose these interactions to the FBI, breaching ethical and legal standards. The FBI's internal review began after McGonigal's arrest at JFK Airport in January 2023. Investigators uncovered his covert dealings with Deripaska and the undisclosed payments from the Albanian official. The case drew significant media attention, highlighting concerns about insider threats and the potential compromise of national security operations. McGonigal faced charges in two separate cases. In December 2023, he was sentenced to 50 months in prison for conspiring to violate U.S. sanctions and commit money laundering related to his work with Deripaska. In February 2024, he received an additional 28-month sentence for concealing the $225,000 payment from the Albanian official. The sentences were to be served consecutively, totaling over 6 years in federal prison. The court's decisions were met with mixed reactions. Some viewed the sentences as a necessary deterrent against corruption within federal agencies, while others questioned whether the penalties were sufficient for the gravity of the offenses. The emotional toll on McGonigal was evident, as he expressed deep remorse, acknowledging the betrayal of trust and the impact on his family and career. McGonigal's case raises critical questions about oversight, accountability, and the ethical responsibilities of those in positions of power. The public's divided opinion underscores the complexity of balancing justice with the need for institutional reform. As McGonigal begins his prison sentence, society is left to ponder. How can such breaches be prevented in the future? What measures can be implemented to restore public trust in institutions designed to safeguard the nation? These questions linger, challenging us to reflect on the integrity of those entrusted with our security. Case 2. Robert Hanssen. In the quiet suburbs of Vienna, Virginia, lived Robert Hanssen, an FBI special agent who appeared to be the epitome of American virtue. Married, with 6 children, a devout Catholic, and a dedicated public servant. Yet, beneath this facade, Hanssen harbored a dark secret. In 1979, he approached the Soviet GRU, offering his services as a spy. This marked the beginning of a 22-year betrayal, making him one of the most damaging spies in U.S. history. Hanssen's espionage activities were methodical and devastating. He provided the KGB and later Russia with over 6,000 classified documents, including U.S. nuclear strategies, surveillance techniques, and the identities of Soviet agents working for the U.S. His actions led to the execution of at least 3 individuals and compromised numerous intelligence operations. The FBI's suspicions about a mole intensified after the arrest of CIA officer Aldrich Ames in 1994. Despite initial focus on other suspects, evidence eventually pointed to Hanssen. In 2000, the FBI obtained a file from a KGB defector containing a voice recording and fingerprints that matched Hanssen. This led to a covert operation to monitor him. Eric O'Neill, a young FBI agent, was assigned to work closely with Hanssen, gathering crucial evidence. On February 18, 2001, Hanssen was arrested at Foxtone Park in Vienna, Virginia, during a dead drop operation. He was charged with 15 counts of espionage and conspiracy. In July 2001, he pleaded guilty to all charges to avoid the death penalty. On May 10, 2002, Hanssen was sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. Hanssen's conviction was a significant moment in U.S. legal history. His espionage activities were deemed possibly the worst intelligence disaster in U.S. history by the Department of Justice. He served his sentence at the ADX Florence Supermax prison in Colorado until his death on June 5, 2023. The Hanssen case highlighted the dangers of insider threats and the complexities of counterintelligence. Hanssen's betrayal serves as a stark reminder of the potential for deception within the most trusted institutions. His story continues to be a subject of study for those seeking to understand the intricate dynamics of espionage and national security. Case 3. Agent Eduardo Valdivia. In the serene suburbs of Gaithersburg, Maryland, life unfolded with a gentle rhythm. Local businesses thrived on trust. Among these establishments was DC Fine Line Tattoos, a modest tattoo studio that promised artistry and expression. Its owner, Eduardo Valdivia, known by his alias Lalo Brown, was a familiar face, an FBI agent by day, a tattoo artist by night. He had a reputation for his meticulous work and a seemingly genuine interest in helping young women break into the modeling world. But beneath this facade lay a darker reality. Valdivia's studio became a trap for aspiring models. He lured women with promises of free tattoos and opportunities with a fake modeling agency, Exeter Models. Once inside, the atmosphere shifted from professional to predatory. Victims reported being coerced into sexual acts under the guise of modeling sessions. Some were filmed without consent, their trust exploited for Valdivia's gratification. The studio, once a place of artistic expression, had transformed into a chamber of manipulation and assault. The first victim came forward in October 2024, courageously breaking the silence. Her report led authorities to uncover a pattern of abuse. 2 more women stepped forward, sharing eerily similar accounts. Investigators traced the alias Lalo Brown to Valdivia, linking him to the assaults. Evidence collected from his home and studio, including video recordings and digital communications, painted a clear picture of his predatory behavior. The community was shaken. The man they trusted was a perpetrator hiding in plain sight. In July 2025, Valdivia stood trial in Montgomery County Circuit Court. The prosecution argued that Valdivia used his position and charm to manipulate and assault vulnerable women. They presented evidence of his deceptive tactics and the psychological trauma inflicted on the victims. Valdivia's defense claimed the encounters were consensual, but this narrative faltered under scrutiny. The jury deliberated for 3.5 hours before delivering a unanimous verdict. Valdivia was convicted on 6 counts of second-degree rape and 2 counts of fourth-degree sex offense. The courtroom was tense as the verdict was read. Valdivia, a once respected FBI agent, now faced the consequences of his actions. Sentencing was scheduled for October 14, 2025, with Valdivia facing up to 122 years in prison. His fall from grace was complete. The victim's bravery in coming forward sparked a broader conversation about consent, power dynamics, and the importance of believing survivors. While justice was served, the scars left by Valdivia's actions would take much longer to heal. Case 4. Agent Harold Paul Rico. In the mid-20th century, Boston was a city of cobblestone streets and close-knit communities. Among its residents was Harold Paul Rico, a man who appeared ordinary at first glance. Born in 1925, Rico served in World War II before earning a history degree from Boston College. In 1951, he joined the FBI, quickly rising through the ranks due to his keen investigative skills and ability to blend into various environments. His fluency in Spanish and Italian made him an asset in undercover operations against organized crime. Rico's early career was marked by dedication and a commitment to justice. By the 1960s, Rico had become deeply involved in investigating the mafia in Boston. He cultivated informants from within the criminal underworld, including notorious figures like Stephen the Rifleman Flemmi and James Whitey Bulger. However, Rico's methods grew increasingly questionable. In 1965, he orchestrated the framing of 4 innocent men, Peter Limone, Henry Tomaleo, Louis Greco, and Joseph Salvati, for the murder of Edward Teddy Deegan. Rico's informant, Joe Barboza, falsely testified that these men were responsible, leading to their wrongful convictions. Despite knowing the truth, Rico allowed the injustice to unfold, condemning these men to decades in prison. The case remained a dark chapter in Boston's history until the 1990s, when new evidence began to surface. John Martorano, a former hitman for the Winter Hill Gang, revealed that Barboza had lied under oath and that the real perpetrators were members of the Winter Hill Gang, including Flemmi. Martorano's confession, along with other testimonies, led to the exoneration of the wrongly convicted men. The FBI's internal investigation, known as Operation Lost Honor, uncovered systemic corruption within the agency, implicating Rico and others in misconduct and obstruction of justice. In 2003, Paul Rico was indicted for his role in the Deegan case. The trial was set to begin in 2004, but Rico's health deteriorated rapidly. He died in January 2004, just before he could stand trial. The legal proceedings were halted, leaving many questions unanswered. Public reaction was mixed. Some viewed Rico as a scapegoat, while others believed he was emblematic of a corrupt system that had failed to deliver justice. Paul Rico's death before trial meant that the full extent of his actions and their consequences were never legally determined. The families of the wrongly convicted men received compensation, but the emotional toll and the years lost could never be repaid. The case of Paul Rico raises profound questions about the balance between law enforcement and civil liberties, the reliability of informants, and the mechanisms in place to prevent miscarriages of justice. While the immediate impact was felt by those wrongly imprisoned, the broader societal implications continue to resonate, reminding us of the need for vigilance and integrity in all facets of governance.
Case 5. Agent Christopher Michael Bauer. In the quiet suburbs of Montgomery, Alabama, Christopher Michael Bauer, once a respected FBI agent, had transitioned to a role with the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency. To the community, he was the epitome of law and order, a dedicated officer, a father, a husband. But beneath the surface, Bauer harbored a dark secret. His tenure with the FBI had ended abruptly due to allegations of sexual misconduct, including a rape accusation by a colleague. Undeterred, Bauer forged a letter to conceal his past and secured employment as a state trooper in Alabama. The facade crumbled when an 11-year-old girl bravely came forward, revealing that Bauer had been sexually abusing her since she was 5. Her disclosure to a friend led to an investigation, and Bauer was arrested in 2021. The trial in 2024 was harrowing, with the young victim testifying through tears about the years of abuse. Bauer denied the charges, claiming innocence, but the evidence was overwhelming. Law enforcement acted swiftly once the abuse was reported. Investigators uncovered Bauer's history of misconduct, including the forged FBI rehire letter and the previous rape allegation that had been suppressed. The community was stunned to learn that the very officer entrusted with their safety had been a predator in disguise. Media outlets across the country covered the story, highlighting the breach of trust and the systemic failures that allowed Bauer to continue his law enforcement career. The trial was a poignant affair. Prosecutors presented compelling evidence, including the victim's testimony and forensic interviews. Defense attorneys attempted to discredit the young girl, but their efforts were in vain. The jury deliberated and found Bauer guilty of first-degree sodomy and sexual abuse of a child under 12. The courtroom was filled with a mix of emotions, relief, anger, and sorrow, as justice was served. On August 1, 2024, Bauer was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The judge emphasized the severity of the crimes and the breach of public trust. Bauer's defense team cited his troubled childhood, but the court found that his actions were unforgivable. The victim's family expressed a sense of justice, knowing that Bauer would never harm another child. The case of Christopher Michael Bauer sparked nationwide discussions about background checks, the rehabilitation of offenders, and the protection of vulnerable individuals. While justice was served, the scars left on the community and the victim are lasting. This case underscores the need for vigilance and transparency to prevent such betrayals in the future. Case 6. Agent Robert G. Lustyik.
In the serene suburbs of Westchester County, New York, Robert G. Lustyik led a life that mirrored the American dream. A decorated FBI special agent with over 2 decades of service, Lustyik was entrusted with national security matters, particularly in counterintelligence. His colleagues knew him as diligent and committed, a man who had sworn an oath to protect and serve. Yet, beneath this facade simmered a desire for wealth and recognition that would ultimately lead him astray. In 2011, Lustyik was approached by Johannes Thaler, a childhood friend, and Michael Taylor, a defense contractor, under investigation for alleged kickbacks involving $54 million in government contracts. Taylor promised Lustyik and Thaler lucrative business opportunities in the Middle East in exchange for their assistance in derailing the investigation. Lustyik, leveraging his position, attempted to obstruct the probe by falsely portraying Taylor as a confidential FBI source and intervening in witness interviews. The scheme also involved creating a shell company, Blue Meadow Energy, to funnel illicit funds. The Department of Justice's Office of Inspector General initiated an investigation into the trio's activities. Through meticulous surveillance and analysis of communications, authorities uncovered text messages where Lustyik and Thaler discussed pressuring Taylor for payments and boasting about their success in derailing the investigation. In one exchange, Lustyik remarked, "Let's just get Utah over with and get stinkin' rich," highlighting the depth of their corruption. In 2014, Lustyik and Thaler pleaded guilty to multiple charges, including bribery, obstruction of justice, and wire fraud. At sentencing, Lustyik expressed remorse, acknowledging that he had destroyed his career and betrayed the public's trust. The courtroom was filled with tension as prosecutors emphasized the gravity of his betrayal, while the defense highlighted his years of service and the personal struggles that led to his downfall. In 2015, Lustyik was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. His co-conspirators received sentences of 24 and 13 months, respectively. The court also ordered the forfeiture of $70,000 in illicit proceeds. The sentencing was a somber reminder that no one, not even those sworn to uphold the law, is above it. While Lustyk's actions were driven by personal gain, they also reflect systemic issues within institutions that must be addressed to prevent future misconduct. As of 2025, Lustyik remains incarcerated, serving as a cautionary tale of how power can corrupt and the importance of vigilance in safeguarding justice. Case 7. Agent Babak Broumand. A decorated FBI agent with a focus on national security, he was respected among his peers and cherished by his family. However, underneath this outer appearance, a series of choices began to erode his integrity. Introduced to Edgar Sargsian, a Beverly Hills lawyer with ties to the Armenian mafia, Broumand's life took a dark turn. Sargsian, impressed by Broumand's status, saw an opportunity to exploit it. In 2015, he proposed a deal: $10,000 a month in cash, along with lavish gifts, in exchange for confidential FBI information. Broumand, lured by the allure of wealth and luxury, accepted. Over the next 3 years, Broumand accessed FBI databases, searching for information on individuals of interest to Sarsen and his associates. These included Levon Termenzian, a key figure in a $1 billion biodiesel tax credit fraud scheme, and Sam Sarkis Solakayan, involved in a $250 million workers' compensation fraud. In return, Broumand received cash, a Ducati motorcycle, private jet flights, hotel stays, and escorts. Their meetings often took place in upscale venues, masking the illicit nature of their dealings. Broumand's actions not only breached his oath, but also compromised national security and the integrity of federal investigations. The scheme unraveled when Sarsen's own criminal activities drew the attention of federal authorities. As investigators delved into his operations, they uncovered evidence of his corrupt relationship with Broumand. Sarsen, facing his own legal troubles, agreed to cooperate with the authorities. His testimony was pivotal in exposing the extent of Broumand's misconduct. The case garnered significant media attention, highlighting the vulnerability of federal institutions to internal corruption. In 2022, Broumand stood trial in Los Angeles. The prosecution presented compelling evidence, including testimonies from Sarsen and other witnesses, detailing the corrupt exchanges between the two men. Defense attorneys attempted to discredit Sarsen's credibility, citing his own criminal background. However, the jury found the evidence against Broumand overwhelming. He was convicted on multiple counts, including conspiracy, bribery, and money laundering. In February 2023, Judge Gary Klausner sentenced Broumand to 6 years in federal prison, a term 4 years less than the prosecution had requested. The judge acknowledged Broumand's prior service, but emphasized the severity of his betrayal. Additionally, Broumand was ordered to pay a $30,000 fine and forfeit $132,009 linked to his criminal activities. The sentencing underscored the justice system's commitment to holding even its own accountable. While some view the outcome as a necessary step in upholding justice, others argue that it reflects a deeper systemic issue within federal agencies. As Broumand serves his sentence, the case continues to provoke discussions on the balance between national security and individual accountability. As always, the images and details in this video are based on public information and remain alleged unless proven otherwise in a court of law. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.